I was standing in line at the grocery store when my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a familiar vibration, the one I'd set for my security system. I pulled it out casually, half distracted by the woman in front of me arguing about expired coupons. But when I opened the notification, my stomach dropped. Motion detected, bedroom camera 1. Time, 7:03 p.m. Nothing unusual, except I was looking at a live feed of myself, sleeping, in my bed, but I wasn't at home. I blinked, convinced it was a glitch. I scrolled up to make sure I hadn't clicked an old alert by accident. Nope. Live. Timestamp matched the current time down to the second. I tapped to expand the video. There I was. Same gray shirt. Same jeans. Same small cut on my cheek from shaving that morning. Curled up in bed, sound asleep. But I was standing here, awake, alive, and holding a basket of cereal, bananas, and cold brew. The woman with the coupons finally stormed off. The cashier waved me forward. I didn't move. Sir, just give me a second. I backed away slowly and exited the store, nearly leaving my groceries behind. Outside, I stood beneath the streetlight, trying to breathe through the static buzzing in my head. Back home was a 12-minute drive. I made it in 6. I ran red lights. I honked at pedestrians. I nearly took out a mailbox pulling into my driveway. As I threw the door open and stepped inside, I half expected to see me, standing in the hallway. Or worse, lying motionless at the bottom of the stairs. But the house was quiet. I crept upstairs, heart hammering against my ribs. Every creak in the floorboards made my breath catch. When I got to my bedroom, I hesitated, then flung the door open. The bed was empty. Sheets still messy from this morning. Pillow dented. No one was there. I opened the security app again and played the clip. The camera had recorded 27 seconds of movement. I watched the footage closely, frame by frame. There I was, lying on my side, breathing slowly, eyes closed. A perfect match for what I was wearing earlier today. The version of me in the video stirred, rolled onto his back, exhaled sharply. Then nothing, just silence, motionless sleep. Until, at the very end, something strange happened. The me in the bed twitched once and smiled. It wasn't a relaxed smile. It wasn't even a sleepy one. It was the kind of grin you give when someone's watching and you want them to know it. Then, static. The feed cut off. I spent the rest of that night going through every setting in the app, trying to figure out if someone had hacked my system, looped footage, deepfaked me somehow. Nothing. I checked the logs. The camera had genuinely detected motion at 7:03 p.m. and uploaded 27 seconds of footage. It hadn't triggered before that all day. And most damning of all, the version of me in the video had that same tiny shaving nick on the cheek, which I'd only gotten a few hours before heading to the store. I didn't sleep that night. I just stared at the monitor, waiting for something or someone to show up again. But nothing did. At 4:33 a.m., I got up and did a full sweep of the house. Attic, garage, crawl space. No sign of entry. No disturbances. Nothing stolen. Only one thing had changed. In the corner of the guest room, which I never use, the small analog clock I keep on the nightstand was turned to face the wall. I didn't remember doing that. And I live alone. The next morning, I called the security company. Spoke to a tech named Raul. He was polite, concerned. Told me it was highly unusual, especially with timestamped live footage. We went through logs. Remote access history. Nothing suggested an outside intrusion. I asked if someone could loop old video in a way that would trigger a new alert. Not without advanced knowledge of your system and your local IP, he said. And not if the footage shows your current outfit and an injury you got that day. He paused. You sure it wasn't just a reflection or mirror glitch? I almost laughed. A mirror that records me sleeping from above. Right. Sorry. I'll escalate this to Tier 3 support. That was the last I ever heard from Raul. Around 9 that night, I got another notification. Motion detected, bedroom camera 1. Time, 9:07 p.m. This time, I didn't open the video. I just turned off my phone and sat in the dark, listening for breathing that wasn't mine. The next morning, I removed every single camera. Bedroom, living room, kitchen, even the doorbell. Unplugged, unscrewed, wrapped in towels and shoved in a box. The whole setup had cost me nearly $2,000 over the past year, but I didn't care. Whatever peace of mind it had given me was long gone. Still, the house didn't feel safer. It felt emptier, like I'd just removed my only set of eyes. At work, I barely focused. I kept glancing at my phone, even though I knew the cameras were off. Every reflection in the windows made me flinch. Every shadow made me wonder if something was watching from the corners. That night, as I made dinner, I tried to put on a show and distract myself. But just before midnight, my phone buzzed. No app name, no banner, just a notification. New recording available. Tap to view. I stared at it. My hands started shaking. There were no cameras anymore. I had physically removed all of them. And yet, there it was. A link. Out of pure terror or stupidity, I tapped it. The video opened in full screen. A single angle. Static at first. Then, movement. It was the guest room. The clock that had been turned to the wall was now ticking normally. The bed was empty. Then, I walked in. Same jeans. Same hoodie I'd tossed on that evening. I watched myself move to the center of the room and sit cross-legged on the floor, facing the camera. Still, calm. And then, like I knew exactly where the lens was, I raised a hand and waved. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Instead, I watched. The copy of me reached down and pulled something from his pocket, held it up to the camera. It was a folded piece of paper. He unfolded it slowly and held it still so the camera could read it. You took the wrong one. Then the feed cut. I didn't sleep, didn't even sit, just paced around the kitchen, muttering to myself, checking windows, doors, corners. At some point, I grabbed my keys and drove to the nearest hotel. $139 for a room that smelled like mildew and desperation, but at least it wasn't my house. Still, I couldn't stop looking over my shoulder. I must have checked the peephole 20 times that night. I kept thinking, what does "you took the wrong one" mean? Who's you? What did I take? And if the person in the video wasn't me, then who the hell was it? The next morning, I called in sick. I drove back home mid-morning. Daylight somehow made it feel less haunted. Nothing looked disturbed. I searched every room again, even behind the drywall access panels. But there was something else now, something worse than the doppelganger on camera. I couldn't remember what I did last night. I remembered packing, driving to the hotel, checking in. But after I locked the hotel door, blank. I checked the minibar. Nothing missing. No drinks. No pills. No reason to black out. Still, a gap in my memory. Like someone had edited out the night. I tried texting friends, asking if I'd called them or messaged them in the last 12 hours. Nothing. One friend, Jake, joked, "Dude, sounds like a horror movie. If you're possessed, blink twice." I didn't laugh. Instead, I checked my banking app. There was a single transaction from 3:42 a.m. A gas station 5 miles from my house. But I hadn't left the hotel, right? I pulled up the receipt. $8.23, water, beef jerky, and a Bic lighter. I don't smoke. And I definitely didn't remember leaving the hotel. Later that afternoon, I got an email. No sender, no subject, no text, just a file attachment. Bedroom 2_footage.mp4. I stared at the name for a full minute. Against every instinct, I downloaded it. This time, the video was clearer, higher resolution, steady, almost cinematic. I was in my bed again, sleeping. Same position as before. At 0:31, something entered the frame from the hallway. Not me. It crawled. Long limbs bent at awkward angles. Its skin was stretched and too smooth, like it had no pores, no details, no face. It reached the edge of the bed and stopped, then leaned closer. Its head, if you could call it that, hovered over mine. Then it touched my forehead gently and whispered something I couldn't hear. Static. Video ends. I sat in total silence for over an hour. When I finally stood up, I checked the hallway, the bedroom, the guest room. Nothing. But now I knew one thing for certain. Whatever's happening, it's not a prank. It's not a glitch. It wants me to see it. And it's not done yet. I needed to leave. That much was clear. I packed a bag, clothes, laptop, chargers, cash. I didn't even bother locking up. Let whatever was in that house enjoy it. I booked a cabin 2 hours north, deep in the woods, no Wi-Fi, no neighbors, no cameras. Just a fireplace and a bed. Something about going offline felt right. If whatever was following me relied on technology, maybe I could break the pattern. I didn't even tell anyone where I was going. Just left. The cabin was old, musty, and freezing when I arrived. But it had a lock. And no internet. I turned off my phone entirely and buried it in my bag. For the first time in weeks, I sat down and just listened. No hum of electronics. No buzz of notifications. Just wind and branches. And silence. It was peaceful. Until I opened the closet. It wasn't locked, just sticky with old paint. Inside, a coat, some boots, and a mirror. Tall, vintage. The kind with curling brass edges and warped glass that made you look like a stranger. At first, I didn't think much of it. But then I noticed. There were smudges on the glass. Palm prints. Both sides. And not mine. That night, I lay in bed with the closet door open, watching the mirror like it might move. It didn't. At least, not that I saw. But at 2:12 a.m., I woke up with a start. Not because of a sound. Because I was already standing. At the foot of the bed. Looking into the mirror. My heart seized in my chest. I stumbled backward and fell against the nightstand. I scrambled for the lamp. Light burst into the room. There was nothing in the mirror but my reflection. Shaking. Pale. But I hadn't meant to stand up. I hadn't gotten out of bed. And yet, there I was. Feet planted. Hands loose at my side. Like someone had pulled me up in my sleep. I left the next morning. Didn't even pack. Just grabbed the keys and drove. As I got back into cell range, I turned on my phone. 17 notifications. Missed calls. Emails. Messages from people I hadn't talked to in months. But what chilled me were the texts. From people I knew. Friends. Coworkers. All saying versions of the same thing. Hey, weird seeing you in the city today. Thought you were taking time off. You okay? You walked right past me on 5th. Didn't say a word. You looked off. Like tired or something. The timestamps were all from yesterday. When I was in the cabin. I called Jake. He picked up on the first ring. Dude, what's going on with you? What do you mean? You were in my building. Yesterday. At the elevators. You stared at me. No. I've been out of town. I said your name. You just smiled. Creepiest smile I've ever seen. I sat down on the side of the road. You're sure it was me? He hesitated. I thought so. But now, your eyes looked wrong. Like they were glass. I drove straight home. But the whole way, I kept seeing myself. At gas stations. On the side of the road. In the reflection of other people's windshields. Always just out of focus. Always smiling. That night, I made a mistake. I turned the phone back on and opened the security app one last time. Even though the cameras were gone, the app still loaded. And in the corner was a new folder. Other. I tapped it. Inside were videos I'd never seen. All dated weeks ago. All labeled. Secondary feed. Back entry. Downstairs, between 3 and 4 a.m. Each one showed the same thing. Me. Moving through the house at night. Sometimes staring out the window for hours. Sometimes just standing behind doors. Sometimes whispering, not to the camera, but to something just off-screen. In one video, I leaned down into the hallway, pressed my face against the floor, and whispered. He still thinks he's real. Then looked directly at the lens. And smiled. I deleted the app. Smashed the phone. Pulled the SIM. I couldn't trust anything anymore. Not my phone. Not the footage. Not even my own memory. Because I was starting to forget things. Not just moments. Whole hours. Whole days. And the worst part? I wasn't scared anymore. I was starting to feel familiar. Like whatever was pretending to be me wasn't just copying. It was teaching. Showing me how to become it. There was one person I hadn't spoken to in years. My cousin, Drew. When we were kids, everyone thought he was weird, always quiet, always drawing things no one understood. Our family said he had episodes. But I remembered something he said when we were 12. There's another version of me. He follows me when I'm not looking. Back then, it sounded like a kid being dramatic. Now, it felt like the truth. I drove 6 hours to his place. I didn't call. I just showed up. He opened the door without surprise. I was wondering when you'd come. His apartment was dark. Every window covered in blackout curtains. Mirrors turned to the walls. No electronics. No router. No cameras. He made tea in silence and handed me a mug. Then he asked, "Has it smiled at you yet?" I didn't answer. He nodded. That means it's learned your face. We talked for hours. Drew said they always start the same way, short visits, minor mimicry, confusion. But then, once the subject begins to doubt, they take more. More time. More space. More memory. They don't kill you, he said. That would be simple. They consume your presence, bit by bit, until people forget you were ever real. I asked how he was still here. I'm not. Not completely. My mom forgot my birthday last year. My landlord says this unit is vacant. And when I look in the mirror, I don't recognize myself anymore. I asked why it was happening to us. He just stared, then said, maybe we weren't supposed to be alone when we were born. Maybe something was split. That night, I stayed on his couch. I woke around 3 a.m. to a creaking noise. Then whispers. From the hallway. I sat up slowly, heart pounding. I saw Drew standing in the kitchen, facing the wall, hands shaking. I walked up behind him. He was muttering something over and over. I leaned closer. He was saying, don't come back. Don't come back. Don't come back. Then he turned around. It wasn't Drew. Its face was wrong. Like someone had tried to sculpt him out of wax, but forgot the details. Eyes too wide. Skin too tight. And that same smile. I backed up, nearly tripping. But it didn't move. Just said, he left. You're all that's left. Then it turned and walked calmly into the bedroom. I followed, terrified. But the room was empty. No windows open. No exits. Drew was gone. I left at sunrise. No goodbye. No note. Just the weight of knowing that whatever took him was almost finished. And I was next. Back home, things were worse. My photos were changing. I noticed it first in a framed picture on my nightstand. One from college, me, 2 friends, and a bonfire. Except, in this version, I wasn't looking at the camera. I was staring at the person behind it. Smiling. I checked old emails, cloud backups, even social media. Every image of me was subtly wrong. My posture, my hands, my eyes. Every version looked like someone pretending to be me. Then I found one that chilled me. It was a group photo from work, taken last year. I remembered that day, the office party, the cheap pizza. But in the photo, there were 2 of me. One in the back, half obscured, just watching. I started asking around. People I trusted. Friends from childhood. My aunt. Do you remember when I broke my arm in 3rd grade? Did I ever have braces? Was my hair always this color? Most of them hesitated. Some said yes. Some said no. Some couldn't remember me at all. That night, I got another text. No number. No words. Just an image. It was a mirror. And in the reflection, I was standing behind myself. I locked every door. Pushed furniture in front of the windows. Turned every mirror to the wall. Sat on the floor with a knife in my hand and a fading sense of reality. I tried to hold on to facts. My name. My birth date. My parents' names. But even those started to feel distant. Like someone else's memories. I whispered them to myself until sunrise. Trying to stay me. But I knew I couldn't fight it much longer. Because each time I blinked, I saw him a little closer. I stayed awake for 3 days straight. No caffeine. No pills. Just sheer fear and repetition. I recited my name over and over. My memories. My dreams. I wrote them down hundreds of times. On the walls, the windows, my arms. Because the only thing worse than being replaced is not realizing it's already happened. But on the 4th morning, something changed. I turned on the faucet to wash my face and saw a note stuck to the bathroom mirror. In my handwriting. Too late. I screamed. Not out of fear, but because I finally felt it. Like a door had closed somewhere deep inside my mind. And a new one had opened. Memories I didn't recognize began bleeding in. A birthday I never had. A high school I never went to. Friends with names that didn't feel right in my mouth. I stumbled back, dizzy, gripping the counter. Then I saw my reflection blink. Before I did, that night, I made a decision. I packed everything I owned into trash bags and set them on the curb. Then I took a hammer to every mirror, every screen, every camera. I stopped saying my name. I stopped answering texts. I deleted every account I ever had. If I was being erased, then I would erase myself first. I moved out of the city, found an abandoned trailer by the edge of the woods. Paid cash. No lease. No questions. I brought only what I needed: clothes, food, and a box of old journals. For the first few weeks, I didn't hear anything. No strange noises. No mirrored faces. No footage. I started to hope maybe I'd outlasted it. Maybe it needed something to track. Technology, records, presence. Maybe it couldn't follow me here. Then, one night, I heard it again. A notification. But I didn't have a phone. The sound came from the box of journals. I opened it slowly. Inside, resting between pages of my old handwriting, was a small black device I'd never seen before. No screen, just one glowing red dot, and a blinking icon. Recording 002. I threw it into the fire, watched it melt, hiss, vanish. But that night, I dreamed for the first time in months. In the dream, I was lying in my old bed, wrapped in heavy blankets, eyes wide open, and something stood over me. It wore my face. It leaned down and whispered, "You're the copy." I woke up gasping, sweating, unsure of where or who I was. I ran to the lake outside, dunked my head underwater, tried to ground myself in the cold. When I surfaced, I saw someone standing on the shore, far away, still, watching. They turned and walked into the trees. I didn't follow. I knew what I'd find. That day, I made a final entry in my journal. If you're reading this and you think you've seen yourself on a camera, in a window, in someone else's eyes, run. Don't talk to it. Don't film it. Don't try to be clever. The moment it smiles at you, it's already too late. The world doesn't need two of you. And it's already picked the one it's keeping. I haven't written anything since, because I'm not sure I still need to. Because sometimes I catch myself smiling at things that aren't there. Because some mornings I wake up and my journal is already open, and the handwriting doesn't look like mine anymore.